Good day. Today is October 5th, 2023. This is salon number 75. Another milestone here. 3 years and running. So it's wonderful to be here today. My name is Pierre Price. I'm an artist out of Phoenix, Arizona. And one of the nice things is, as we have grown, we are very international at this point. We have artists here today from Germany, all across Canada, all across the USA, from Iran, and other points around the globe as well. So welcome to everybody who's here today and who may be watching after we do the recording. Today's subject was designated as falling leaves, and here we are in autumn time, at least here in the US, Northern Hemisphere. But we're going to also switch things up a little bit. Our previous salon meeting, we brought up a number of different new topics that we're looking for some discussion. So today we're going to do a couple of demos, have some discussion, and also if anybody is interested in making a short artist presentation today in between our discussions, feel free to use the raise hand option in Zoom here. And anybody who has their hand raised, when we get to the point where we can do a presentation, I will call on you. So, Cynthia Rubin, you wanted to make a quick mention about the ongoing weekly co-working meetings that have been going on. So why don't you share that a little bit?
Okay. So did I unmute successfully? Okay, it's giving me too many messages about muting, unmuting. Someone changed the interface. So as people know, the two Cynthias have been organizing these weekly Zoom co-working sessions. And they've actually been really successful in getting us, we have a group now where we feel like we really know each other well. And we're open to other people joining, and we're open to other times as well. So basically, we just come on, people set aside that time as studio work time. They say what they plan to do. Then you turn off your sound, but keep your camera on so you feel like you're in a joint space. Work for an hour and come back and show what you're doing. And it evolved a little bit in spontaneous crit work as well. So that's it. And so everybody's welcome. And if we got enough people for other times, we would do another time. But this is kind of ridiculous to say to this group because it's at noon on Tuesday and the people who are here at noon on Thursday probably don't have a time conflict. So Cynthia, did you have anything to add? Or anyone else who's been coming? We have, of the people who are here right now, Karen comes, Sahar, Susan, Deanne, Michael has come a few times, right? And there are a bunch of other people, and Kanush came last week. So we're, it's really been great.
I just wanted to add that the link to register is very often found in the Techspressionist Facebook page. Also on Instagram, it'll appear. So make sure to register, and registering, before Tuesday is a good idea. So we know who's coming, and we look forward to having more join us.
Right.
It's also on the homepage of techspressionism.com. You can always find the register link there. So that way, that's a place where you can go to where it's always going to be there. And you can sign up and you'll get the Zoom link via email.
Okay, so that's a really good point. So it always happens on Tuesdays at noon. And Colin put a little note to me to be sure to mention that. And it's not the same link as the salons. And so if people have successfully registered in advance, I try to send out a reminder link sometime between Monday and before it happens, so that you're sure to have the latest link. But there are logistical reasons for not having it on the same link as the salons. So be sure to do that. Okay, that's it. Unless someone else has anything to add who's been coming. Okay.
All right, thanks, Cynthia. Yes, that's been it's been really fun attending this several times I've been there, so definitely worthwhile. Okay, so one of the topics that we brought up last meeting is this idea of potentially creating either specific salons where we might do tutorials, or we might integrate a tutorial as part of upcoming salons, or we might create specific separate meetings where tutorials might be brought up. So today, just as an example, Cynthia DiDonato and myself are each going to present very short tutorials as potential examples. After our two presentations, I'd like to give us a little bit of time in which we could discuss the possibilities and what might work, and whether or not those of us here would find doing tutorials as something beneficial for the group. So Cynthia, I will hand off the mic to you and your presentation.
Thank you, Michael. I'm going to start sharing immediately. Okay, today I'm going to talk about Procreate. Procreate is a program that I use quite a bit, along with many other softwares. But I thought today I'd show you about how I have created one of my pieces, actually many pieces that I kind of call 2D sculptures. And so in an effort to give you a little bit about Procreate and a little bit about how I use it, I thought I'd start by showing you the Procreate gallery. This is where all the artwork resides, and this is where you can begin your creations. As you see on the right-hand side, you can select pieces in the gallery by hitting select. You can import pieces. By the way, I'm using an iPad Pro, and Procreate can only be used on an iPad, not on any other Mac device. It can be used on an iPhone as well. So I can import images from the iPad itself, and it brings up my drive. I can also bring in a photo, and that brings up my photo gallery. And then last but not least, I can create with this plus my blank canvas upon which to work. And here I have many choices for canvas sizes. And I also have at the very top the ability to create a canvas of any size and any DPI. It's only bound by the size of the storage on your device. And so today I'm going to begin only by taking in an image that I already have in my gallery. Excuse me, it was formerly in my photo gallery. And as you can see on the left here, I have two glitched images. The important thing to remember for me is that the quality of the image I take in, or whatever the image is, really makes a difference as to what I'm able to create. So this first piece, as you can see, has a black line about it because I was capturing the television screen. And I decided rather than use this glitch image, I would use this because I like the black in there. And I wanted to see what would happen if I use it. So I'm going to select this image right now. And that opens up in the workspace of Procreate. And as you can see, there are a number of tools that are available. And I will very quickly talk about some of the tools and then go into my using some of the tools. First of all, on the left-hand side, you see the ability to change brush size. And my brush tool is blue, so that means it's active. And so I can change brush size here, and below, I can also lower the opacity of the brush. However, I'm not going to be using a brush today, but I just wanted you to know what those tools are on the left-hand side. So let's look at the tools on the top left. We have the wrench, and here we have everything from add, and you can see the items I can add. I can hit canvas, and again, I can crop, I can use animation assist and other things. Third, I can share in different formats, even a TIFF, which is very high resolution. Also, I can make animated GIFs, PNGs, etc. The next is video, and here I can show a time-lapsed replay of every step I took with a piece, which I like to do occasionally. And then the last two have to do with preferences, where you want to change things regarding your Apple Pencil if you decide to use one. I use an Apple Pencil, but I also use my finger. I'm very fond of being able to touch the screen. And then last but not least is help. And the help is incredible, including videos out there on every aspect of Procreate, which is how I learned over the last, I don't know, let's see, 9 years actually. Okay, if we move to the right, we have the paintbrush. And of course, we have a brush library, and Procreate has many, many brush libraries that you have that come with the program, plus what you can import. And so if you change the choice to sketching, you get sketching brushes, etc., etc. You can choose all kinds of brushes. Then there's the smudge tool, and the smudge tool also coincides with the brush that you have chosen. So you can smudge in a brush shape. The third tool is the eraser, and similarly, you can erase in the brush tool shape. The next is layers, and just as anyone who uses Photoshop knows, layers are elements that lie one on top of each other in an image creation, in image creation. There is always a background color and layer. So that is there. Here, the plus allows you to create a new layer and so forth. The check mark, you can make a layer disappear. And I love, if you hit the N, here you can change the opacity of a layer and also the blending mode. Sometimes things become interesting, sometimes they disappear, etc., etc. Okay, last but not least, we have the color wheel. And here you're able to choose whatever color you want. You pick something on the outside ring. In the inner circle, you have value changes that you can make. And there are different formats of the color wheel. If you look at the bottom, you can have the one I'm in now, which is disc, classic, harmony, that allows you to pick complementary colors. In fact, even pick analogous and tetradic colors. I really like that feature. And of course, here we have, again, values, and they give you the hexadecimal numbers in case you're doing website work, and that's important. And then, of course, palettes. You can create palettes, and that's not something for today, certainly. So let me get right to it with what I'm going to do with this piece. First of all, if I use my two fingers spread apart, I can reduce the size of the canvas or make the canvas larger. I can turn, and this is handy when you want to see what orientation your piece works in. So again, you can make it fill the screen, or you can make it smaller. Well, I'm going to make it a little smaller because I want you to hopefully see the tool. I'm going to use the transform tool. I'm pointing to it with my mouse cursor. And when I hit the transform tool, can you see the menu at the bottom? It says freeform, uniform. Okay, good. And as you can see, I have choices for if I want to move the image. This is where I can move the image. That's what transform deals with. And if I put my finger on the screen, I can move this around in a freeform fashion. I can also distort the image. I can reset. If you see at the bottom right, it goes back to where it was. And then also I can warp. And I love warping. So when I warp, I can then bring my image into any format that I wish. And if I don't have enough dots to handle the moves, I can move to advanced mesh, which is at the bottom extreme left. And you can see I have more points. So I can manipulate this in other ways to bring something up that I perhaps want to happen. So this is why I'm happy I kept the black, because that gives another aspect, I think, to the image. So when I'm finished and I decide, wow, that's hanging off here, I can go to freeform, and then I can adjust the image so that it's there, or if I want it to go off the canvas or what have you. So let's say I want to leave it there. Maybe I want to make it a little smaller. So I'm using my 2 fingers to zoom in. And then if I hit the transform button, now it's placed on the screen. Generally, when I do this, I decide, gee, what happens if I duplicate it? In order to duplicate, I use 3 fingers and I swipe down and I get this menu. I hit duplicate. And believe it or not, there are 2 images there. That little green dot allows me to manipulate the image and even make it smaller with my 2 fingers, zooming in. And then I can choose to build whatever it is I would like to build. So I might decide I want it there, and then I leave it alone. Now, once I've duplicated, it automatically in Procreate creates another layer. So let's go up to the layer icon, and you can see I have 2 layers now, one on top of the other. And the advantage of layers is people that work in software like this know that you can manipulate one layer and not harm other layers that are present.
It's
So,
about 1 minute, Cynthia.
okay, so in the end, I keep building on this, and then I can create my final image. So let me show you. I'm going to go to my series that I created in co-working. Let's see, here we no, not that co-working, not that co-working. Let me find. I guess I hid it somewhere else. Ah, here it is. Okay. So from this image in co-working, I went from this to this, and you know, some of them I like. I really like this one a lot. It's another image. So again, through manipulation, I was able to come up with all of these different images. And of course, as you saw, I changed the background. Here I used the N in the layer that allowed me to choose different blending modes. And I also used another tool that allows me to move around shapes, particularly this shape right here. That's called liquefy. And so I got some very, very different images, all from that television glitch. So that pretty much takes me there. And I am finished. I thank you for listening.
Thanks, Cynthia. All right, so tutorial number 2 here. I will share my screen now as well. I am going to do a quick demo with Midjourney. Does everybody see screen okay? All right, so what feature I wanted to highlight today is the blend feature in Midjourney. And just to let everybody know, if you ever try Midjourney, if you haven't before, you'll need Discord. Midjourney is planning to come out with a website version sometime soon. I don't know exactly when, but at this point, you need to be in Discord in order to use the software. Also, just wanted to highlight here the settings that I have, just in case anybody wants to know. I like the raw mode because it's something that works well for the type of artwork that I create. And these are the other features here. The remix mode is nice, and I'll show you why in just a little bit. So one of the ways in which I utilize Midjourney is just pure experimentation. And so what I've done here is I brought in 4 images that I've created in the past. And these first 2 were 3D artworks that I created primarily in 3D Bryce, old school software that I've liked. This one is a fractal image that I did a lot of work on. And this last one is one that I used Midjourney earlier in the year as a starting point and finished up with a lot of work in Photoshop and a few other techniques. So I just wanted to show you that with this blend feature, and you bring that up by hitting / clicking on blend, and you can use anywhere from 2 to 5 images to blend. And I'm going to use 4 images. And let's see here. Thought I had them all selected to start with here, but and then we'll do 4. I'll go back. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is copy and paste the images. Zoom is causing me issues here. Okay, so I have each of the 4 images in here, and then I click on the type of image I want to create in terms of an aspect ratio. And since these are all landscapes, I'm going to pick landscape, and I hit enter. And this is a little bit of a tight wire act here for me. So this is being done live right now in Midjourney. Usually it takes a few seconds to under a minute to create the 4, and hopefully I'll keep my fingers crossed that, oh, good. All right, so we're gonna start seeing 4 different images are gonna be created with this blend mode. And basically, Midjourney is looking at the characteristics of each of the 4 images and synthesizing 4 different possibilities. And as you can see, as they are now created, you have some interesting looking possibilities in which to experiment and play with. So what I will do is pick a couple just for this tutorial, and I'll just go ahead and pick the first 2, and I do that by hitting the upscale, even though in this version it doesn't really upscale the image, but it isolates the images, and you can look at them. And so the feature that I want to highlight now is I can vary and create basically another set of images from this base image that I've utilized. And one of the things that I can bring into bear here is I can create a prompt to help influence the new 4 sets of images. And for this, I'm saying I'm going to add geometric, abstract, surrealist, oil painting. So I hit submit, and now a new set of images are going to be created off of this one. And then for the second one that I selected, I'm going to create a series of 4 more images, but I'm going to use a different prompt. And I'm going to vary this second image, and the prompt, I'm doing a bit of cutting and pasting to save typing. I'm going to use architectural, fractal, fauvist, watercolor painting, and then I'm also going to highlight the different colors that I want to have in there. So what I want to show here is that you can use Midjourney as your own set of experimentations. So now we have 4 images from that from the first of the ones that I created, and now you can see they're becoming more and more painterly looking. And if I wanted to follow one and say, like this 4th one down here, I can hit the upscale, look at that and say, okay, that's kind of interesting. Now, maybe I want to pursue this further and create a complete image, or maybe there's aspects to this that I like and take this into Photoshop and play around with this image. But you can see that there's a lot more to play around with there. And then here's the second series of images. Now you can tell that there's some similarities, but stylistically, I've made some major changes here. And for me, once again, this is a way to test out ideas. This blend mode can be utilized as a jumping off point from previous works that you've created and see how you might create something that's a hybrid. And then you can use prompts to take that further and further along the way. All right, so I'm going to stop share. And if anybody has any questions for me about that, feel free to ask away. And yeah, Lee.
I was just wondering how you inject the prompts in. I saw you were doing it in text in a scroll.
Okay, how the prompts get in there?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you do when you do the do you want me to go back in and share my screen? Would that be easier to answer you, Lee?
Sure.
Okay.
It didn't look like there was an interface and that you were just putting it into a specific place.
Right. Okay. Let me share my screen one more time, and I'll show you how to do it directly. Okay, so you're seeing my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, so let's say I wanted to change this particular image right here, okay? So if I go into vary, I can either vary it strongly, which means it's going to create 4 really distinctively different ones, or I can do a subtle variation. And let's say I do the subtle variation. Do you see this remix prompt
Yes.
screen? Okay, so when you see the URLs for the 4 images that were the original images that I blended. Starting here with the word geometric, that's what I had cut and pasted in. But I can use my keyboard and say, I'm deleting geometric and I'm going to do abstract. Let me say, let's go fractal. I'm typing in the word fractal here. So if I hit submit, that URL now, you can see it's the URL, I'm sorry, not the URL. The prompt that I'm using for this new variation of 4 is fractal abstract surrealist oil painting. Did you see that okay?
Yeah. I see.
Okay, so that's how that works in terms of adding a prompt if you want to add a prompt. And so now it's using this image and then highlighting not only the prompt that I use, but also, again, the underlying images to begin with. And now you can see that there's, I can't say how much the fractal quality is in there, but we've got more of this kind of curvy, wavy thing going on. And I would guess that the fractal part of the overall prompt probably did some influencing to that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good question. Cynthia.
Yes, I had a question about does it favor landscapes? I mean, there seems to be, sky, landscape. I know there was.
Now that's a good question. Some people think that it does in some regards, but I've had good success with portrait aspect ratio and also square. So the only thing that it favors is that when I look at it on screen, because my screen is landscape, I can see it large without having to necessarily potentially scroll. But I don't know that there's an inherent bias necessarily.
So I'm not talking about the orientation. I'm talking about the fact that there's sky and ground.
Okay.
And it seemed, even though your prompts were very, abstract in a lot of ways, it kept giving you
correct
landscapes.
So since 2 of the images definitely had a landscape quality in terms of sky and ground and foreground and imagery, that those images help to influence showing that sense of sky and ground, foreground, background. Now, I've done completely abstract works that are very flat, and that will maintain that. Now, if in my prompts, I use words that potentially could add a dimensionality to that, then that will start to influence and potentially bring in a landscape quality to it, or some kind of dimensionality, some lighting techniques where you might see shadow and things like that. Cynthia Di Donato.
Michael, when you add the additional information to the prompt as you did earlier, the geometric information, you have to make sure you put it right after the URL for that particular image.
It needs to be afterwards, yes. But the exact order in which things are done, there's debate about how prompt wordage influences things. But that's where I normally put it. I put it in that area right after the images, and that seems to work very well.
Now, I saw other URLs stacked up above it. Were those the
Yeah.
other images?
Those are the URLs for each of the 4 original images that I brought in to the blend.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think at this point we should transition and discuss whether or not doing tutorials like this might be something that the group is interested in. And if you have comments, feel free to speak up, and whether we'd want to do something that would be strictly all about tutorials. We could do subjects, things like that. So this is just open for debate for a few minutes here. Any feedback? Good, bad, or ugly? Sherry?
Well, I want to thank both of you. I thought that the tutorials from both of you were excellent. I mean, I learned a lot, and I would like to see this happen, maybe every couple times when we have a meeting. I thought it was very good and very informative. So thank you to both of you.
Thanks for the feedback.
Thank you.
Others would like to say something? Just go ahead.
I'm always interested in how people create their work, and particularly this group, because I know you all, and I was really fascinated. I had no idea how you were making your pieces, Michael, and I enjoyed every minute of it, every aspect, and I really enjoyed watching Cynthia do her pieces. So I found it extremely pleasurable, and I would like more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also liked both the tutorials. I think they were really pro and really nice to watch, really interesting to see the process. And yeah, they're also inspiring. Kind of, I wanted to come back to exploring AI a bit after this. So yeah, I never used Procreate, but yeah, it was good to know what it is about, and it's really cool to see what you guys doing. I enjoyed it. I would love to see more. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Anton.
Thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like this is something we should keep exploring, and maybe we can do some more down the road. So the other subject that we wanted to talk about, and I'm going to hand the mic off to Colin in just a moment, but we had also mentioned last meeting the possibility of ways in which we could connect with universities, colleges, educational institutions, because as we all can see, not only from today, but just over the last 3 years, is this group has a wealth of deep knowledge, experience, in many ways of utilizing technology to create art. And Colin has something that he would like to be able to talk about in this subject. So, Colin.
Hey, thanks, Michael. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, actually, I wasn't really even going to share today about this or anything, but this morning I went over to Bennington College, which is about 10 minutes from where I'm living right now in Vermont. And they have a decent art department there, and I've been working with one of their alumni who's an MFA student on a couple different projects. So he brought me in. He's actually this guy, Divine Bradley. He got hired by them as their director of innovation. So he brought me into this new hire breakfast just, to help me network. I connected with him with some people that I know. And he had talked a little bit about the idea of me working with him and the school to do some sort of a workshop on Techspressionism. He was really interested in this idea of Techspressionism. And I had thought, I had done a little bit of teaching in the past. And, I thought it'd be interesting to create a syllabus around Techspressionism where it might not be like a traditional college course where you learn software, but more like a painting course where you might have students doing a critique or developing a project over the course of a semester using technology. And then the instructor could help facilitate, whatever sort of technologies they might want to work with, maybe working with other departments. I know when I was in graduate school, the MFA computer arts students like Patrick and myself had access to some of the tools that the engineering students use, like their laser etcher and some other stuff like that. So, and I started thinking about how this could translate, just as a sort of model for anybody who is interested in kind of working with nearby academic institutions. In that, I think schools are always looking for people to come in and do artist talks and stuff like that. And I feel like Techspressionism is a really good entree. Like you can sort of, at least for me, I found that, presenting myself as having been involved with this group and presenting the idea to somebody that hasn't been familiarized with it has opened a lot of doors that probably would not have opened for me just as an individual artist, coming to speak to someone, both in like, an academic context, but also commercial gallery spaces, other things like that. I feel like people, they've never heard this term. So once you bring it up to them and start explaining to them, I've found at least that people get interested in it and then sort of over the course of that become interested in, your work as an artist. So I think, one thing that people could do or try to do is, if there is a college nearby that has an art department, pitch them this idea of doing an artist talk. And, the sort of initial context could be talking a little bit about Techspressionism and then going into how you as an artist use technology and, basically showing your own work. And, you never really know what that's going to do, but ultimately I think that it helps introduce the concept to a different audience. And also it's a really good way to sort of network and get involved with an academic institution in general. So, and, the other component of that, other than an artist talk, which I think a lot of schools like the idea of a visiting artist, even if it's someone local to them that isn't a faculty member coming in and doing sort of a show and tell to their students, maybe it's just within a digital art program if the school has one, or it could be a general interest thing that just happens in, an auditorium or something. People could just come if they want to from whatever, whatever they're majoring in, it could be open. But, and then the other idea too is doing some sort of a workshop that might be based around your area of expertise, like, and I think that, using Techspressionism as a way to introduce the concept might be a very good way of getting a workshop booked, because it's like, oh, here's this idea, and this has been developed with this group of people, this artist group that's international, and I think like presenting it that way is gonna create interest. And like for instance, Michael, you could present a workshop on Midjourney, and say, I'm a Techspressionist, and people are like, well, what's that? Oh, it's a group of artists working with technology, and one area of interest of mine is using AI to do image generation. And you could talk about how that fits in with your practice, but also, you know, do show and tell like you just did, or even if it's a workshop, invite students to become involved where they could set up a Discord account. I think Midjourney is now unfortunately not offered as a free thing anymore. I think you need to sign up for like a base level subscription in order to be able to even use it. They kind of phased out the free beta like many software companies do. But you know, that was just sort of my main thought. One other item of interest involving academic institutions is there's a graduate student named Vivian Lazardou. I'm not sure if that's the correct pronunciation of her name, but she's been in a couple of our salons, and she's a graduate art history student in Greece. And she's actually doing her master's thesis or dissertation on Techspressionism, which is pretty cool, you know. So I feel like that's going to be really the first scholarly paper that's written on the topic. And, you know, we've been kicking around the idea of potentially developing it into some sort of a book project or a scholarly text where essentially she would be the author, but it would be, I would help facilitate in terms of setting up interviews. So we did, you know, a recorded interview with Helen Harrison of the Pollock House recently, and Patrick Lichty sort of came up with this idea of Techspressionism being contextualized as a fourth wave of expressionist, the expressionist impulse. So, and I think that's very interesting. And Helen loved the idea, as did Steve Miller, because it really helps place what we're doing within a continuum, in our historical continuum, that, you know, it's well documented and, you know, legitimized through academia, but also, you know, stuff like German expressionism would be the first wave. There's a great Edvard Munch exhibition near me at the Clark Institute, you know, but a lot of the European artists, Kandinsky, obviously, and Der Blaue Reiter or Die Brücke, that were predecessors to American abstract expressionism, people like Pollock or Rothko, de Kooning, you know, would be the second wave, New York School Abex painters. And then the third wave would be neo-expressionists, you know, people like maybe Basquiat would fit into that group, or Julian Schnabel. And then Techspressionism, you know, it's kind of grown out of expressionism to begin with. So I feel like connecting it as a link in that chain makes a lot of sense. And the word that Helen Harrison kept using was subjectivity. So I think that's something that we all bring to the group and within our own work, is it's a reflection of personal experience in a way that's not just, you know, rendering. And I think that that's really of interest. You know, I actually started reading Concerning the Spiritual in Art by Kandinsky, and it's all about that, really. You know, it's about how art can be, you know, the sort of what he thinks of, or what he wrote about, is sort of like the highest purpose of art would be in a spiritual sense, that is kind of like something that's beyond commercialism or straight representation. So I think that that's, you know, something that binds us all together in some way. So yeah, so I mean, you know, and this project is, I think, you know, Vivian's on Instagram. I'm sure she'd be happy to speak to anybody involving their, you know, experience with Techspressionism, and I think that's very exciting. So yeah, that's all I have to really share about that piece with academia.
Cynthia Rubin.
Okay, so I wanted to say, first, short comment. I started teaching computer stuff in the late 80s, and I never taught software. I took all of my painting assignments and just made them computer. So I think many of us in the academic world have done that. But what I really wanted to say is, since we're spread out all over, I think that it was interesting to help each other line up visiting artist talks when we travel. I once went to the UK and I gave 3 different talks around England, and each one was not particularly well paid, maybe the equivalent of $200 or $300, but you kind of put them together and you have a free trip to England. So it would be great if maybe we even just started posting somewhere, you know, had a blog or in the chat somewhere. This is where I'm traveling in the next few weeks, this or months. This is, I'm open to giving talks. I think that would be really great. So
That's a great idea. And also, if you live near an academic institution that, you know, brings in visiting artists, that could also be posted as opportunities. So if someone's like, oh, I always wanted to go to London, and look, they do visiting artist talks at this school, then you could reach out to the contact over there and see, you know, make them a pitch or whatever. That could be another way that that sort of networking opportunity could be, you know, facilitated.
Yeah, this is something I think is really important. And I appreciate all you shared, Colin. I didn't realize some of what was going on there. So that's really kind of cool. I mean, for us as a group, bringing in the next generation, especially those exploring what technology can bring to art, I think is a really important part of the whole dynamic for us. So this is another really exciting area. I see Tommy is joining in. I guess we'll wait for him to be ready, but Tommy's going to be presenting something brand new today.
If I could just jump in here,
Yeah, sure.
Tommy's been delayed in transit, so he'll be joining us at 1:15 p.m.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks for that info, Renata. Cynthia DiDonato.
I just wanted to mention something that's ongoing starting tonight. Is that all right? Won't take long. Tonight begins Mocha Lights in Patchogue, Long Island. It goes from October 5th to the 9th. It starts tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and goes to 11 p.m. tonight, and of course until October 9th. Digital art is being projected on buildings and marquees. Animations and videos are going to be shown, and we are well represented. There are 10 of us who have our work in Mocha Lights. Marlo has work, Renata, Karen, Lucy, myself, Jaime, Deanne, Malavika, Sahar, and Susan. So we're well represented there, and I'm thrilled myself to be a part of it. So I just wanted to share that.
Thanks. That is really exciting. And again, it just shows.
I think Jamie is also. Jamie is a Techspressionist.
I mentioned
right? Jamie is also. Oh yeah.
Jaime. I thought he pronounced it Jaime.
Oh, by the way, in the spirit of pronunciation, as a native New Yorker, it's Patchogue. If you ever talk to the curator there, it looks like it should be pronounced Patchogue, but it's Patchogue.
I have so much trouble with that. Patchogue. Okay. Thanks, Colin.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Congrats to all of you.
I just wanted to also make a special mention of Karen's work. She and I were in Mocha Lights last year, and this year they commissioned her to make a special work to fit the post office building in the village. So big shout out for that.
Thank you.
Yes. And there's a preview, I think, on the Facebook post of her piece. It's spectacular on their Facebook page. I
would love to stand on the street and see the building light up in person. It's quite a large building, so it's really exciting. Thank you, everyone.
Yes,
do apply next year, everybody, because they take all kinds of art and they really support us in the arts. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's international. Lucy has a spotlight that they've put out for her on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Is that Beth Giacomo that's still the point person there. So she's a really good person. Also just in terms of exhibition ideas, she's one of the, I think she might actually be the main person behind getting museum accreditation for Mocha Long Island, which is, you know, in the same township as Mocha Lights and Patchogue, but it was an art space there, and it recently, you know, did get museum accreditation. And I was part of a 4-person show there initially, but I think if she would certainly be receptive to exhibition proposals and things like that, you know, especially if you've been involved with Mocha Lights in the past. So definitely you could drop her a line. She's on Instagram and, you know,
Did you say her name again?
it's Beth Giacomo. That's Giacummo.
Thank you.
She's
And
very
if
nice.
you
and very
Google
responsive.
Museum of Contemporary Art, Long Island, you'll find more information about them as well.
I just wanted to say one other thing about that. It's not all animation work. They do take still works too. So do apply.
So since we have 5 or 10 minutes before Tommy joins us, does anybody have some artwork that they would like to share today? Oh, opened. Yeah, Lucy. Go for it. Yay.
All right. Because I noticed it was welcoming falling leaves.
Yes.
And so I did show this a couple of years ago, but I've made some adjustments and I'll just show it one more time. All right. Good. All right, so bit of a dark message, but there we have it.
Lucy, that's beautiful. It had this, you said you made some changes. This one really had a lot of almost hand-drawn feel to it. Was that intentional, or did you do something different to get that feel?
Yeah, it's sort of an aesthetic that I like. I like that sort of painterly painterly look. You know, I'll share my screen again. And I'm sort of playing with this. At the beginning, it shows up with this sort of luminous quality of the trunk and the branches coming through. And then it gradually becomes a bit more, that part disappears, becomes a bit more solid, but yet I like that sort of dry brush look where you can see through the trunk and the branches. So it's sort of ephemeral in that respect. And it's like the leaves are going through the changing colors of fall, but the trunk is sort of doing its own thing, also changing color in a way that how do I express this? It's like here, it's like, okay, where the trunk and the tree is becoming sort of red. It's, for me, that's like that pain, that sort of the internal pain of our environment, somehow speaking to us in a way that maybe we can relate to it as, you know, blood. And yet when it comes to the point of finally becoming charcoal and ash, and that sort of like it's drawn in charcoal and Conte, but animated, and then finally that luminous quality of the trunk and the branches really coming through brightly as its own spirit, something like that. So just kind of just playing, it's like the leaves are kind of going through seasonal colors, but the trunk and the inner branches is sort of expressing itself in a different way, maybe more.
Could you repeat the word you said? Internal pain. What? What?
Like here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the leaves are becoming white, like they're it's no longer it's no longer sort of seasons. The trees, the leaves are becoming white. They're going, or and this is like the branches and the trunk is, like, to me, that's sort of expressing that the pain of what's happening with the environment.
Okay, thank you.
Something like that. And
For
then
me, it looks very much like it's transition to flames.
Yeah.
And that here you have smoke and ash.
right, yeah, that too. That's
The word that I heard Lucy use originally was blood.
Yeah, that, you know, it's like it can be like flame, but also this, especially in sort of this area where, you know, the leaves are like ash, and you can think of it as like the trees maybe on fire, but yeah, I was thinking of it also more internal, like as in blood. But so, you know, ambiguous in different ways, and not so completely representational. It's not like flames, even though it can kind of, you know, represent that also. Into this. So yeah, any more questions or thoughts?
Yeah, I sorry, I had to jump off for a second, Lucy, for a medical phone call. So if this has already been discussed, just let me know. But is this one of your dome pieces?
No, it's not. I mean, my dome piece did have a tree and the leaves were flowing in a similar way. So I'm using some of the techniques, but this wasn't the actual piece.
Well, I've had the pleasure, and Cynthia, I'm not sure if Lucy's work was running when you came up to the Cotuit, to see Lucy's work full scale, like large, 6-8 feet across, and also in a dome festival where it's all 3D around. And it's just amazing because you're inside of her visuals as they're flowing past you. I just wanted, when I'm watching it, Lucy, to take my monitor, but I just paid for it, so I can't. But I would love to just take it and sort of wrap it around. Thank you. It's beautiful.
I remember well seeing it with you, Karen. It was remarkable.
It's remarkable.
Thank
And
you.
see it that large.
Thanks. And yeah, it was kind of cool being able to have it projected on a dome, so it's actually all around you. So yeah, exploring dome creation, that type of immersion was very fun and interesting. Exactly what I've been wanting to do. So dome is a pretty good medium for me. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. I'm assuming we're still waiting on Tommy at this point. Does anybody else have a short presentation of their art that they might be able to do for a couple of minutes? Susan?
I would. In addition, this is like a very big month for me. In addition to being part of the Mocha Lights, my biking movie that I made during COVID, that I redid for a bike festival that won I actually won some money. I mastered it and submitted it to a local event called the Mayor's Art Show. That's kind of a prestigious event here once a year, and it's going to be shown and I'd like to share it with you. It's a minute. It's going to be shown outside. I'm very excited, on a building outside in this October the 13th, I think it is. So I'm going to share content and show that short film for you. It's on YouTube at this point, and I'm going to make it big and start up here. Oops, sorry. Stop.
Thanks, Susan. Congrats.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I'm excited. There's limited opportunities locally for showing the work that I do. And I'm always excited when local people are going to see my work, and it'll also be on, they'll have an online gallery also. So I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Susan, are you going to, is there a link to that? Some of
Yeah.
us, our internet is off today, so.
Yeah,
you could put
I'll
it in
put
the
a link
chat,
to
that would be great.
Yeah, I'll put a link to the,
Thank you.
it's on YouTube.
Okay, Tommy, are you ready to share your news today?
Oops.
You there, Tommy? You're up if you're ready to share.
Hey, so I'm so sorry. I'm stuck in the subway, and so I'm not sure if my connection is going to survive actual video use. So I might turn off my video. I see everybody's frozen right now. Doesn't look good.
Your audio is coming through.
Audio is perfect now, Tommy.
My train's pulling in. Can I come back in 5 minutes and then I'll be able to actually talk? I've had such technology train trouble. Sorry.
Okay. All right, so I guess we got a few more minutes here in between. Any further discussions, or does anybody have any short artwork presentation that you would like to make? All righty then, dead air here.
I can tell people about a new
Hey, so can Renata share the screen? That'd be awesome. Thank you. And I'll come in when I can.
Okay, Renata.
Okay. So we've come up with an online initiative. It's going to be a 3D world, and all Techspressionist artists are invited to participate. We have a Google form, and it's going to be, well, Tommy will probably drop the link in the chat, as he's the one who designed the space. So the idea is that we're going to have a town square, which is representative of an exchange of ideas, a forum, if you will, or a place where artists can meet and discuss ideas. And in addition to that, each artist will have their own space. Coming out from the main square, there'll be a corridor, and you have a room, and you can decorate it any way you like. It's powered by Mozilla Hubs, and we have a 1-minute tutorial that we'll put up online so people can take a look and see how everything will work. The main point of this for us is that we didn't want to use Kunstmatrix or a traditional gallery-like setting for showing Techspressionist art. We wanted to blast open the idea of the square white room with white walls and wooden floor. So the floor can be carpeted with mushrooms. You can put rocks in there. It's really, we want to sort of get it looking a bit messy, if you will. Tommy has already made a world like this for his own use, and it's set in Brooklyn, and you go up the stairs and there's graffiti on the wall, and you can take a look at that. Yes, the other thing about this show, if you will, is that we want you to talk about how Techspressionism has made an impact on your art. So that's really what we want to find out in the Google form. We've asked you that question, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of different kinds of ideas from that. So those are the two components. The Google form first, which is like our intake, we have a curatorial team of 4 artists, and we will look over all the submissions, and by October 15th, we're going to close it off. And the show itself will open on December the 1st and run until December 31st. And December 1st is a Friday, and it's the day after our December Salon. So we would encourage you to come to the opening. You can bring an avatar and mingle, and because it's a 3D world, we can all meet in the town square and have some contact with each other that's a little more social in a different way than we do on these monthly salons. Cynthia, I think you're muted.
So we don't need a device in order to enter this world?
You can ask.
web browser.
Okay, here's Tommy.
And I was thinking goggles.
Oh, no, you can watch it on a browser. You can be in it on a browser.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. It sounds like so much fun.
Good. Here's Tommy. On the streets.
Frozen Tommy.
Yeah, I'm wondering how this can be resolved by the end of the salon, because he's the one that has the link. What I'll do is I'll make an Instagram post about it. That's what I'll do.
Right.
And I'll also make an Instagram story, and I'll put a live link in the story, and I'll keep it up for more than 24 hours. And that way you can all get the Google form and fill it out. And I'll liaise with Tommy at the end if he doesn't make it. I think he's sprinting for his classroom or his office.
If we're waiting, I have something I could show while we're waiting.
Yeah, okay, Lee.
It's not very much, and I didn't edit anything, but it's just stuff that when I was shooting this morning, like I shoot basically every day in the morning. I was thinking about leaves rather than what I normally shoot, and I have something open. I'm going to share. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I'm going to share this, and it's just like a dozen or two. Go pretty fast. Of the shots that I took this morning, thinking about the leaves. And so can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, so and can you still see it now that I think I switched to the actual app, so I can change it, or maybe it'll work. Okay, so it does work. All right, so I wanted to focus mostly on the leaves, but I went to these areas that and I haven't like selected any pieces of it yet, but I do think there's probably some pretty nice images here, but I just want to scooch through them. So I was playing around in the leaves and trying to and working on these different brush strokes. They call them brush strokes. And it was funny because I was surrounded by these people who were either doing yoga or meditating. And so I was trying to slow my breath so much while I was shooting these. So I was trying to imbue some of that into the work. And I mean, I think this one maybe is doable. And then I just try to mix the different focuses on the leaves, and they were fallen leaves. So I was looking for places where there was a lot of leaves scattered, but thinking that I can do something like a Andy Goldsworthy kind of thing. And just playing with the leaves that were on the ground and trying to make some nice stuff with them. And these are, I've said this before, these full pieces are 4 feet or 50 inches tall. So a piece like this might be 2 feet by 4 feet, full resolution. So I'm looking to find some nice stuff, or at least stuff that I can mix around. But I was really trying to focus on how do I get neat patterns on the leaves on the ground, since that was the theme for today. And I think that, no, there's a couple more, but this one, the weirdest thing is this one has these, there's these in the the Pano art worlds, they have an expression when you have this sort of black spot that gets cut out by the algorithm. I forget what the word's called right now, probably blackout. But for some reason, I feel like if I can print this on a surface of something that's like maybe 2 inches, even, and I don't want to use foam core, but some kind of 3D image, not a canvas, but a 3D surface that the black spots could just be missing. And it could be the gallery wall behind it, because the actual photo doesn't exist where there's black. So I was kind of thinking that, and that's the last one that I shot, sort of thinking about today's salon. So thank you so much. And I guess Tommy's still not there. So that's
I'm here, but I'm only on audio, I realize. Every time I start turning on video, everything collapsed on me. Renata, I think, did a beautiful explanation. I was not able to hear everything, so I don't want to repeat what Renata said, but we've been having some conversations that I think extend Colin's idea of Techspressionism as social sculpture, this idea of community that we, sort of value and find so important within this group. How do we approach creating a space, to emphasize that quality is, I think, what we're thinking as we came up with this idea of cyber, and I think Renata has shown a draft of our Mozilla Hubs 3D space. And this is an open source 3D tool. I'm going to record a quick demonstration on how to use it and post that. And I'd like to solicit some feedback on that. And then maybe have people have a template that you could use. And I was looking at this sort of idea of like, what can you do in digital space, like Lee's picture there of the, how do you have a photo that has that edge, digital space, right? It's a place to show it and share it and walk around it with people. It's an interesting, playful space. It's low, resolution in a way that I think veers away from the uncanny valley of weirdness that can happen in VR spaces. And we're intending for it to be playful. Renata suggested using an icon of a mushroom as our mascot. And that, I think, is a playful and otherworldly metaphor or symbol in a lot of ways. So we're hoping to solicit interest in participants in Siberiana, and we have a Google form. We can share it with people. I'm sure if I did that when I was popped off here. I'm not sure if I'm still on anymore.
You're there.
I see Cynthia's mic is not muted. Cynthia, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Tommy,
so Renata, can you tell me how much I should continue? I'm sorry, I missed when you were demonstrating and maybe sharing screens.
Well, I think we got the gist of it across between the two of us talking, but I didn't share my screen to show the Mozilla Hubs mock-up that you made. But Colin has offered to put out.
That's fine. Yeah.
Colin's offered to put out information. I just put a Techspressionism story on Instagram with some of the relevant info, and I will put links. As soon as I liaise with Tommy, we'll send Colin everything, and he'll put it out on the mailing list. So you'll all get everything you need.
And this Siberiana. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just curious if you could just give us just a very brief overview of what type of media would be welcome. Like, I assume, of course, images, but audio or 3D models.
All of the above. Yeah, that's the great thing about this space. It's very flexible. You could have videos playing, with or without audio. audio is actually kind of proximate within the space. So as you approach a video, the audio comes onto your speakers in a kind of nice way. And the same thing happens when you're talking with your microphone in the space. People whose avatars are standing close to you hear you louder. So it's an interesting thing to be working with audio within this space, if that's something that you're interested in.
So Renata,
Or
you
3D
mentioned
models.
October 15th as a date. Is that the date to apply, or is that the date that people need to have finished work completed by?
Let's make that the date to apply. It's just interest. Is we're trying to gauge how much big this is going to be, how many doors and spaces we're going to put in our first iteration. I do think of this also something that's totally, able to be iterated. People can make another node. This is all open source and really just templates. You use the template and you call it Siberiana 2, or whatever. In the future is the idea. This is open-ended if possible. So, but that said, I am planning on using the digital Siberiana space as content for a physical sculpture in the Techspressionism Summer 2024 show at Kingsborough Art Museum. And the idea is to have a sculpture that's a table, just a table really, with some tablets on it that would allow people to interact in a group with the space together. So I'm not sure if that makes sense. I'm gonna turn off my mic because I feel like I have wind noise and I'm not hearing anybody else, but I'm hearing myself a lot. So, but really, I do want to say this was what I heard was fantastic, and I really liked all of the demonstrations that went on today. Those were really, really great. I'd love to see more.
I also wanted to ask, is it possible to apply with generative art like HTML or something? Hello.
I think we may have lost Tommy. Oh.
Anton, I don't have the answer to right this second, but I can DM you with an answer. How's that?
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Sure.
I can't wait to see more of the generative art. They're so cool. They like orby glow. That'd be cool if you can. If you
Yeah,
can.
thanks. Yeah.
Well, I think if Tommy can hear us, that's wonderful what he and Renata have discussed regarding this space. I'm very excited about it. So I'm looking forward to it happening. So can we have some context about this?
That's just an announcement. We thought 50 artists was the cap for the first iteration. And December 1st is the opening. So that's what the graphic was there.
Okay, so this is for the Mozilla Hub space.
Yes, yes.
Because I know Tommy was mentioning the other experience, the other 2024. So I get it. Thank you.
This December 1st is the opening of Siberiana, the Mozilla, the virtual world.
Thank you.
And October 15th would be your cutoff date to fill out the Google form. October 15th would be your cutoff date or your deadline.
And then there'd be a later deadline for providing the finished work.
Precisely, yes.
Right. I don't know exactly how the platform works, but many of the platforms are a little bit limited. And I was thinking about Anton's question about generative work. And it may be that in order to do that type of work, to create a video, for any of us who are doing what animation or generative work or whatever, at least we can know that playing a video in that space will work. If you can't actually run the HTML in the platform, which may or may not be possible. So just putting it out like that.
Guys, so I'm just going to jump in here. We are a little bit past time. Usually, we'll do an hour and a half of the recording, and then whoever wants to stay and hang out, we usually do an after party after the recording stops, which is basically just hangout time, something in lieu of an advisory board, since we're not an organization. We're just a bunch of artists that like to hang out and have an after party. But that could also be, a time to just kind of talk about group initiatives or share ideas. Certainly the conversation about this show, can be continued after the recording. But I do want to just kind of limit it to the general time frame. But I really appreciate all the great discourse through this last salon. It's been very interesting. And thank you, Michael, for moderating, and Renata for also, helping to move the conversation forward. And Tommy is really great to see him on the subway. It's a real artist group, and someone's webcasting or whatever we're doing from the subway. So, all right. So I'm gonna stop recording in a couple seconds, but all those that want to stay are welcome to stay and hang out. So we will stop recording in 3, 2, 1, and cut.